Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Black Womaning in Corporate America with your host, Nicole S. Palmer. Happy to have you here. Glad that you're back. Really quick, let's do a few housekeeping items before we get into it. First and foremost, if you haven't already, please go ahead, mosey on over to Spotify, Apple, Audible, wherever you listen to your podcast, and go ahead and rate it. Lovely if it would be 5 stars. If you appreciate the work I'm doing here, it is 5-star rated as of today. So would love to keep that momentum going. Please show your support by rating my podcast. Also, if you're listening to this on YouTube, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. Definitely share it with a friend. Sharing is caring, like I've said before. Let's get the word out and really build out a supportive community and just keep the momentum going. Something else that I wanted to share with y'all, because last week I did allude to the fact that my book is going to be available. Spoiler alert, it's not available yet, except on Amazon. And I am looking at you sideways, Ingram Spark, because seriously, come on. I expected to have the book available within Black History Month, and funnily enough, I go on my account, it says the title is available as of February 24th, but I can't do nothing with it. So yeah, Ingram Spark, can you go ahead and check my messages, please? Because I sent you a couple already, and get it together, because you're not looking very good right now compared to, I thought I was making the right call moving over, but not making a good first impression, just saying. So as soon as the book is available everywhere else, I will let you all know. Kind of frustrating that it's not available yet, especially because it says it's been available since February 21st. Math does not make sense at all because it ain't showing up nowhere. Just saying. So stay tuned. I am looking at a couple of other publishing options, or distribution options, I should say, because the book has been available since November 21st. So I'm looking at a couple of other publishing options. I said it again, distribution options, so that the book can be available more broadly outside of the confines of Amazon. So stay tuned for more intel on that. A couple other announcements I really wanted to make really quick, because, if you don't toot your own horn, who will? Okay, right? Yeah. So unless you may not recall or are not aware, I have 2 features on the homepage of Taji Magazine. They are everything. So go check them out. Go check out Taji Magazine, because they are where it's out. They are where it's at. They are all about Black excellence. Go check them out, okay? And yes, your girl has 2 features on there. So go check that out as well, because it's some good information on there, okay? So go check that out. And this week is going to be a flurry of activity, because I have a couple of other publications coming out this week. And publications is not the right word. Let me think of the right word. Appearances, maybe that's the right word. So I have a podcast interview that's going to hit this Thursday. I'll have more details later on in the week, maybe tomorrow or Tuesday. And I also have an article coming out later this week. So super excited about everything that's happening. Really grateful. Still leaning into gratefulness, because I'm telling you, it's a game changer. And I'm just excited to see how everything's picking up and everything that is coming down the road. So stay tuned, guys. Lots of goodies coming my way and ultimately your way. Yeah, let's go with that. So anywho, I feel like I did a little bit of a jinx by saying that today's episode was probably going to be ripped from the headlines, because it really is. So we are definitely going to talk about the whole MSNBC shakeup, which is, I can't say I'm surprised. I'm just kind of through. I think it's where it's at, because obviously the biggest thing that everybody's talking about is Joy Reid being fired from MSNBC. So No More, the readout, which I loved. It's like one of the primary places where I went to get commentary because of the way she breaks things down. And the funny thing about it is that I remember talking to my professor about this, and she knows who she is, so shout out to my professor. Although she doesn't like me calling her professor, but she's gonna always be my professor. That's who she is to me, so it is what it is. And I remember sharing with her one of my early milestones for the book, Playing the Game While Black Women in Corporate America, and just being super excited about the traction and everything that was going on. And I remember her saying, next stop, the Joy Reid show. And I was super hyped because I was like, look, man, that would be like the peak of, I don't know what to call it. Like, that would be like the height of accomplishments for me because I love Joy Reid. And fast forward to now, that was like a couple of months back. And fast forward to now, where she's no longer going to be on MSNBC, is really disappointing. Not surprising, but super disappointing, right? And I know she's still going to go on to do big things, because if it's one thing that I know about Black women, we know how to bounce back. That's just the way that it is. And so I know she'll go on to do big things. And I'll probably be on whatever show she comes up with next. That's what I'm claiming for myself. I'm just saying. So it's just really frustrating to see the continuous dismantling of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I know you're probably thinking, oh, everything is not DEI. What? Don't do that. Don't do that. It is 100%. This, to me, is seeing corporations and corporate America at large opting out of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think it's important to say the whole thing out, because when we say DEI, to me, it just doesn't, it tends to dilute it. I think especially these days, because people like to use it in such derogative ways. But sometimes it's important to take stock of what each of those letters represent, and to really think about what it is you're rolling back, what it is you're dismantling. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. You have to sit with that, because that's really what it's about. And it's really discouraging to see not only how quickly, but how this is still continuing. Just there's no signs of stopping, that we're going to keep seeing this happen across everywhere, across all aspects of corporate America. And to see it happen in the media is really disheartening, because you think about the fact that there's supposed to be this notion, we all know that's not the case, but there's supposed to be this notion of impartiality and objectivity in the news and media, because they're supposed to be like they're supposed to hold the line when it comes to freedom of the press, when it comes to liberty and justice and all of those things, theoretically, okay? We all know that's not the world we live in, but theoretically, that's what they're supposed to represent. And to see that they're so flippantly and so comfortably kowtowing to what the government is doing and saying that DEI no longer exists it's really discouraging. Also, one little aside that I have to say that I found interesting and also completely contradictory. Yesterday I was just like kind of surfing through channels, and it was funny when I was looking for something to watch, how they had a commercial touting and really celebrating Women's History Month, and I didn't see any of that last month. And I'm serious about this. There was allusion to like, oh, Black voices and things like that, but there was no calling out specifically of Black History Month. And it was interesting for me to see, like, the moment March 1st hit, everyone's talking about Women's History Month. And everyone forgets for some reason that women are also part of the diversity, equity, and inclusion equation. I think that's what's fascinating, for lack of a better term, to see that, oh, we can ignore Black History Month, but that doesn't, Women's History Month is not the same thing. And that's why, as Black people, this is where the frustration comes in, because there's this false belief that diversity, equity, and inclusion only affects or targets Black people. That's the belief by the general populace who wants it to go away. Because if it was really about all of the people that it affects, such as people who are disadvantaged physically, people who are neurodivergent, people who have other types of deficits, if we really put it in that context, people would think twice about wanting to gut or dismantle diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is why we have accessible ramps at government buildings. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is why there are more women at the top than there were in years past. And so this narrative or belief that somehow removing diversity, equity, and inclusion is only going to affect Black people is so misguided. And it's why we see the move and the shift in the media, in other places, because that is the signal. That is what they want to say, because they can't say the other word, right? So that is what they use. DEI, higher, or woke, or things like that. This is what they use instead, because they really want to say they can't say. And so this is just a code for what they really would love to say out loud. And that's why you see the moves that you see. Because if it was truly about dismantling diversity, equity, and inclusion, everyone would be a target, not just Black people. And that's what's so sad to me to see, especially like in media, to see that that's the message that is being sent. And it just kind of proves the point, right, that we've been saying all along, that one, diversity, equity, and inclusion is not just for Black people. In fact, it doesn't benefit us the most. And I saw this the other day, which was just blew my mind, that someone shared this on LinkedIn where it was a screenshot from Google. And if you notice, most nowadays, if you do a search in Google, the response that gives you at the top is an AI response. And the AI response flat out said that diversity, equity, inclusion disproportionately benefits white women. This is AI telling you this, okay? Not just us, not just, the usual suspects, if you will. AI is saying that it disproportionately benefits white women. And so this is really the target, if you really think about it. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is not just going to somehow hone in on Black people. There's a lot of other people that are going to get swept up in there. We're seeing it play out now. But it was really discouraging to see that Joy Reid, which has always been to me someone who has spoken out and really spoken truth to power, to see her be caught up in this madness that is anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion was really saddening to me. And, let's not forget, before that, Rashida Jones stepped down as the first ever, can we talk about that? The first ever Black president of MSNBC. That's insane, right? So you think about the fact that before they came after Joy Reid, Rashida Jones, and I think it's easy to forget because we see it so often, she was the first Black woman to ever lead major cable news network. And yes, she stepped down, but you have to wonder what led up to that. And we know that she did this on the heels of the inauguration and what's his face being elected. And to see that, she stepped down and decided, hey, it's time to move on. It just really is just par for the course. It's really par for the course. And it really is a lot of what I talk about in my book, because this is really part of that playbook. Here is this big top position that Jones climbed to. And what is the corporate playbook? Elevate, isolate, and eliminate, right? So here she is moved into a position of power, likely given impossible challenges with little support. And then what is the final step? She either is removed or she is forced to remove herself because the situation is no longer tenable. And that happens, and it almost was like an omen, I think, to where we are now, where not only was Joy Reid removed, there were a number of other staff members, minority staff members, that were removed. And again, to me, all of this that's happening is normalizing that it's okay to discriminate and to terminate someone on the basis of their race or their ethnic background. It's being normalized, and that's why we can't stop talking about it, because this is what is happening right now across America. These changes that are happening are corporate America signaling that it is okay to eliminate individuals because of race, because of the color of their skin, and there will be no consequences because of the highest office in the land says it's okay. Surely we can do that and have no repercussions. And that's what's really, really the most disheartening part of it. That said, kudos to Rachel Maddow for speaking out about what took place and acknowledging that the math wasn't mathing and that this was pure foolishness. And at risk to herself, let's talk about that. Like, that's 100% at risk to herself, but she spoke up anyway. But where's everybody else at? Where are the similar non-Black folk that are in positions of power speaking up about what is happening? And that's where change is difficult to come about when you don't have people willing to stand up and come together against something that is clearly wrong. And it's really just very sobering, and also speaks to this idea that we have been talking about in multiple spaces about the importance of building our own table. And I think about my time in corporate America and when I made the decision, when it shifted from, okay, I'm going to climb the corporate ladder and do the usual steps as an overachieving Black woman, and I'm going to meet this milestone. This is my 3-year plan, 5-year plan, 7 and 10. And when I recognized that the place that I was trying to advance in, when I recognized the place I was trying to advance in was no longer serving me, and I walked away, I did so with every intent to build my own table, because the opportunities that I wanted for myself were not there because of bias, because of infighting, because of the multiple tropes that are painted against Black women. And so once I stepped away, I did so with my focus and plan to build my own table. And that's what I've done with Dominic Media. That is what I'm doing with writing the book that I wrote and continuing to do multiple other projects, because we have to come to a place of realization. And it's not easy, so I'm not saying that this is like something we'll just like snap our fingers and everything will be exactly where we need it to be. But we need to really realize that we need to build our own tables. We need to create our own spaces where we can have the things that can be taken away because we have ownership. And I see that playing out in different ventures that are coming out. I think fan base is one example, and I'm not going to get into the drama that's going on over there with the owner and some well-known personality that's between them and Jesus. But it's still an example of a space that was created in answer to TikTok. And I know that there will be other spaces, but it just made me realize that we have to make a decision that we can't always expect that we're going to have the opportunities that we would deserve based on our qualifications in spaces that were never built for us in the first place. And that's something that's important to really realize. And that's why I chose to walk away from corporate America. And I also knew that at the end of the day, I'm not trying to work for other people for the rest of my life. That's just never been my dream. But with that said, when we are in a place that keeps repeatedly telling us, you don't belong, we're going to set up all these roadblocks and obstacles in your way, and we're going to keep moving the goalpost, and you're going to have to work 10 times as hard, and on and on and on. When we are repeatedly confronted with those elements, we have to start believing what is in front of us rather than trying to say, oh, it'll be fine, or I just have to work harder, or I just have to do this different or that different. It's not, oftentimes it's not us, but the environment. And so we have to definitely come to a place where we say, you know what, enough is enough. And that's where I am. And I'm not saying that you can't be in corporate spaces. That is not at all what I am saying. I am still, as you know, I've said this before, I'm still in corporate America. I just moved different. The way I interact with corporate America now, very different than how I interacted with corporate America a little over a year ago. And you have to make the decision. You have to make the switch if you intend to remain in corporate America any certain amount of time, unless you're just not, you don't really care about advancement and growth. If you're just trying to collect a paycheck, then hey, do you, boo. But if you're trying to do something different, if you're trying to really maximize your growth and your potential and all those things, it's not going to happen by going with the typical norms in corporate America, because they don't apply to Black women. They don't apply at all. The rule book is very different because we are treated very differently than our counterparts. And so it's important to keep in mind that the rules don't apply. The standard, work hard, get promoted, that's not how that works. There are nuances. There are just unspoken rules. It's a whole thing. And it's important to keep that in mind. And I think that ultimately, I do think that to really truly be where you want to be as an overachieving Black woman, you have to create your own space, or you have to be with like-minded individuals who are willing to support you and hold you up in the way that you need in order to advance and grow. And we just typically don't see that in corporate spaces. It has not been my experience. If it's been yours, hey, kudos to you. So I think that it's so important for us to, as a people, to really start thinking about ownership, to really start thinking about creating our own spaces, building our own table, and bringing others to the table with us. That's also important. So it's not just about, this is my table that I built. It's about, this is a table that I built to create opportunities for myself and for others. I think that it's multifaceted. So it's not just one side of it. You also have to think about what other people you can bring along with you. And I think Issa Rae does this so beautifully by, she talked about this in an interview, that when we arrive at a certain level, we think about who we see up at the top that we can bring into our project, our sphere. But what about, reaching back or reaching to the side, like the people who are in your circle that are around you? Those are the people that are there with you as you're moving along. So why not also bring them along the journey, rather than saying, oh, I've arrived, so now I don't have to worry about these little people, or those are not people that I'm interested in partnering with. It's so important to not have that mindset, because I do feel like that in itself is a trap. When you're advancing and growing and accelerating, forgetting that once upon a time you were in that lower tier where you were hoping someone would help you or give you a leg up, and you reached out to people and they turned you down or shut you down. And then sometimes what happens a lot is people are hardened, because they're like, well, if they don't want me when it's my turn, I'm going to do the same thing. No, the goal is to be different. The goal is to actually break that mold and break away from that mindset where we believe that it's about getting ours and forget everyone else. That's not the mindset to have. It's really that crabs in a barrel mentality, where we believe that, okay, I've got to climb on top of other people to get out and I'm not worrying about anyone else. We really need to move away from that, because, and I said this last episode, this is 100% a group project, and we'll only get out of this together. And having pockets here and there is not going to be sufficient. We're going to need to come together as a people in order for us to move up and out of this current situation. And you may be saying to yourself, you have a lot of nerve to say that when your podcast is called Black Women in Corporate America. You don't care about anyone else. Au contraire, mon frère. And that just means not quite, my friend. So, and this is not something I came up with, so I'm just going to use this analogy that I've borrowed from someone else. So yes, my podcast is called Black Women in Corporate America, which, as the podcast implies, focuses on Black women. But it's because it's what I know. It's because I'm a Black woman, and I think most Black women who focus on Black women and their issues will tell you the same thing. We're not saying that only Black women matter. We're just choosing to focus on our specialty. Just the same way anyone who, like a history teacher, is likely not going to be that great teaching math, or vice versa. They teach what they know, and no one gets upset because they don't want to teach math, or no one says, hey, what about the other subjects? They focus on their area of expertise. This is my area of expertise, but it doesn't mean that it's just for and about Black women. It means that that is the focal point, but that is just because it's what I know. And I think that that's something else we need to get away from, because I see that a lot. Some of the infighting is because when you talk about topics about Black women, but what about Black men? What about this? And what about that? And they're no less important. But we need to start focusing on the real issue. And to me, thinking that way or saying things like that only distracts from the real issue of the matter. I would just as easily support a podcast or anything else that focus on Black men, because they're equally important. But I cannot boil the ocean. And that's how I look at it. I cannot possibly talk about every single issue there is that is part of the Black lived experience. I can only talk about my lived experience as a Black woman. That is what I know. I'm not a Black man. I couldn't possibly begin to try to distill the issues that Black men face in corporate America, outside of corporate America. I can empathize because I am married to a Black man, but his experience is not mine and vice versa. So I say all that to say that this is not meant to be exclusionary. This is not meant to be biased or selective against others that don't fit into this space. This is meant to just focus on the lived experience that is Black women in corporate America, because that is what I know inside and out. That is what I experience. I can't speak to anything else. And so, yes, I'm very targeted in the topic and also the things that I discuss, but it is not at all because there is a level of superiority. There just isn't. There's just a level of knowledge that I have about this particular experience that I don't have about anything else. So yeah, that's my little that's my little rant on that. So I really hope that we are paying attention to what is happening and we don't just see it as like, oh yeah, just more of the same. This is definitely not more of the same. We have targets on our backs, and this is basically signaling to everyone in corporate spaces in positions of power, especially the leadership and the executives, that it is okay to eliminate and remove what they're considering diversity, equity, and inclusion hires. You see how different that sounds versus saying DEI? DEI, this sounds very kind of, doesn't have the same weight as saying diversity, equity, and inclusion, because that is what you're rejecting. And it's important to remember and to remind ourselves that that is what those initials stand for. And I would love to see people say, I am against, instead of DEI, because they if you notice, you notice that those who speak out against DEI never actually say the words. They just keep saying DEI. It would sound very goofy to say, I am anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion. Just my 2 cents, but what do I know, right? What do I know? So here's what I want to leave you with, okay? We know that this is going to continue to happen. It's just happening on a much broader and larger scale, okay? But I want to leave you with 3 things that I hope that if you're not already doing, you work towards it. Number 1, we collectively and individually need to build our own tables. We cannot rely on corporate America to prioritize this because it never has, okay? So to expect them to do it now, that's a fool's errand. So let's focus on building our own tables. Roland Martin talks about this, especially now. He's been very vocal about what's been happening. We really need to start building our own infrastructure, because when we own the infrastructure, it's very difficult to do what has been happening. Number 2, document everything, okay? When those layoffs and shakeups are happening, just keep track of it. Keep track of who is being pushed out and why they're being pushed out. I don't want us to forget, because I think that's also one of the traps or one of the dangers of what is happening is the forgetting. We cannot forget what's happening, because what does it say? Those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Let's not forget what is happening right now across corporate America and across this country, period. Number 3, let's be strategic, okay? Let's not react. And to me, there is 100% a difference between reacting and responding. And I do talk about this in my book at length. There's a whole chapter dedicated to this about strategic restraint, okay? And what is super important in this moment is that we cannot react, because that is what is expected. And I've seen this play out in my own corporate life, where there are situations that happen where you are very much expected to react emotionally, irrationally, erratically, and then you don't. And then they're like, wait a minute, that's not the norm. You're not supposed to react that way because you guys are irrational and all of the things that, all of the stereotypes and myths that are perpetuated against us in general. So let's respond instead. Responses are measured. They take some thought. You have to take a beat before you respond. Reacting, you're doing that in the moment. Responding is very different. There's a huge difference between the two. So let's start making sure that we are being strategic and we are applying that strategy to how we move in corporate America and just in general, especially in this country. Okay? So those are my 3 things or closing parting thoughts, as if you will, as we think about everything that is going on right now. I really, really hope that we are paying attention. I'm not expecting that things are going to suddenly get better or improve. Certainly not until something major, and I think it's going to take an act, a pretty significant act, for things to move in the right direction. So that's all I have for today, or for this week, I should say. Let me know either in the comments, send me a message, and let me know if you're dealing with something similar. If you want to share your story on the podcast, I would love to hear from you. Send a message to info@delnickmedia.com. You can send a message there and someone from my team will get back to you. Send me a message on LinkedIn. I'm pretty frequently on there, Nicole S. Palmer, my full name. You can find me on LinkedIn. Let me know if you'd like to share your story. If you have a question or just want to have a conversation, please contact me there. Don't forget to follow wherever you find me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this with another Black woman who is navigating this nonsense, and tag me if you have a comment and let me know what's up. What do you think about this or everything else that's been happening lately? All right, guys, that's all I have for this time around. Thank you for joining me. Please come back, same time, same station, for another installment of Black Women in Corporate America. Until next time, take care.